is Mayra Jimenez. I am the Children's Program Director with the Refugee and Immigrant Center for Education and Legal Services, also known as RAICES.
Hi everyone, my name is Manoj Govindaya. I'm the Director of Family Detention Services at RAICES.
Hi everyone, I am Barbara Benya. I'm the Assistant Director of Outreach here at RAICES.
So I think we might be having a small unexpected technical difficulty. We quickly had to migrate this call over to Facebook Live from a different platform. So I'm really sorry, but this webinar will be recorded. And so you can definitely check it out on our Facebook page later. We really want to thank all of you guys for tuning in. We're incredibly overwhelmed by your generosity and by everything that's happened for our organization and from the community, national, international. We really ask you guys to bear with us a little bit as we try to address some of the many questions that we've gotten on Facebook and from our supporters, from those of you that have donated. We really did not anticipate such an overwhelming response. And we are also, trying to figure out how we can most effectively use the generous donations that you've sent our way. We want to maximize effectiveness and efficiency so that every dollar is used for exactly its intended purpose. I want to talk about one thing that's been making the news today a little bit is the possibility that President Trump will be signing a new executive order which would end the separation of families but allow for their indefinite detention in family detention centers. To my knowledge, this order has not yet been signed. We don't know what it says. We don't know exactly what it's going to say. What I can say is that for many years, the U.S. has used family detention centers. They've been in place for quite a few years, but really in the last 4 years, the use of family detention centers has really ramped up. RAICES has been providing legal services at one of those family detention centers at the Carnes Detention Center outside of San Antonio for the past 4 years. Family detention is not the answer at all. I think that's a hard line that we stick to. Children should never be incarcerated. Children need to be with their parents. Families need to stick together. So while this executive order might address the separation of families, it's absolutely not a workable or viable solution to the administration's treatment of children. Additionally, there is a settlement agreement from 1987 called the Flores Settlement Agreement, which governs the treatment and the detention of children in federal custody. And based on the preliminary reports that we've heard, and like I said, I haven't seen the executive order, but it doesn't seem like it would pass muster under the Flores Settlement Agreement. And the last thing I want to mention is that an executive order is policy. It's not law. It's not a law that was drafted by Congress, that was passed by both houses of Congress, that was approved by the president. So the signing of this executive order is really just the start of another fight. But again, we haven't seen the executive order. We don't know what it says. We don't know what its impact is. For those of you that are just joining us, we had a small technical difficulty and we had to move this call from a different platform to Facebook. So thank you for tuning in. This Facebook Live program is being recorded and will be made available on our Facebook page, so you can absolutely look at this later on. So what we wanted to do today was to, over the past couple days, as these fundraisers have really taken off and gained a lot of attention, we've received a lot of questions from many of you on many different things: what we are, who RAICES is, what we're going to do with this money, etc. So we sort of want to dive into many of those questions, and hopefully we can provide you guys with answers. We want to be transparent and let you know how we're going to use all your generosity, this financial generosity. Keeping in mind that, like I said at the beginning, we definitely didn't expect this outpouring of support, and so we are really making these plans as we speak and trying to figure out how to most effectively use the support. So I just want to provide a quick background on RAICES. Our organization was started in 1987, so over 30 years ago, as a response to a wave of Central American refugees and sanctuary movement that was happening during civil wars in Central America. We've been working with Central American populations for 30 years. We have over 100 staff members. We have offices throughout Texas. We are the only nonprofit legal services provider in the country that works directly with and provides representation and legal services to unaccompanied children that are detained in federal custody, detained adults in federal custody, and detained families, mothers and children, in federal custody. We have successfully run a pro bono project, a nationwide pro bono project on family detention at the Carnes Detention Center for the last 4 years, where we've worked with thousands of volunteers, both here in Texas and remotely, over the past 4 years. Last year we closed 51,000 cases of free legal representation for people throughout Texas. Barbara, do you want to talk about some of the non-legal services that we provide?
So just to sort of underscore what Manoj has said, is in our 30-year history, we strive to be transparent, so we're excited for this opportunity to be able to let maybe people who are new to the work that we're doing know a little bit about who we are, where we're coming from. So in addition to the legal services that we provide, we also understand that in order for us to best serve the populations that we work with, that we need a much more integrated approach. So we do work to provide a number of social services. We have recently launched through a partnership with Our Lady of the Lake University locally here in San Antonio, support groups for recent arrivals, for the undocumented community, understanding that the impact of detention, or even the uncertainty maybe of what it means to be living as an undocumented person during these times, that the impact that that has emotionally and psychologically on really an entire family. It's important to address that, and in order for the families that we work with and represent to move forward successfully, not just overcoming legal obstacles, but also overcoming social obstacles. We work very diligently to go out into the community. We do a series of Know Your Rights workshops and presentations, and for us to be able to expand the avenues with which that we work, especially with like our community partners, it's integral for us to be able to be part of the community and work with the populations that really need us the most. And refugee resettlement, I want to talk briefly about that. So even though we know nationally that the numbers have dropped, our refugee resettlement program has hit their numbers, and they're on par to perhaps even surpass their numbers for June. We also are very proud of the fact that our self-sustainability rate among recently arrived families is 75%, which is higher than the national average. So we are working really hard to make sure that the impact of both advocacy and education efforts, but also legal efforts, that our services are really broad, and that we are trying to be as impactful as possible with the populations that we serve.
Thanks much, Barbara. The next thing we want to talk about is what has RAICES already started to do with the money. So I'm going to turn it over to Myra for a minute.
Yes, I'm going to briefly describe one subcontext of all this amazing support that we've been receiving from the community is something called the LEAF Project. So the LEAF Project is catered to providing or continue providing released representation to unaccompanied minors who are no longer in detention that are now released in the community. There was a recent cut in funding for this, and we previously had funding to continue accepting new cases. However, that was cut. However, because of the great response that we've had, we've actually been able to continue that. And so I wanted to kind of explain that any person who's detained, regardless of their age or gender, in a detention facility is automatically put in immigration proceedings. There is no right to court-appointed counsel as you would see in a criminal proceeding. So you have the right to be represented, but at your own expense. So you can imagine that a child, again, because it doesn't matter if you're 4 months old or 17 years old, they are going to have to fight an immigration case. So we have been providing representation to this very vulnerable population for several years now, and because of the generous support that we've received, we are actually able to continue those efforts despite the funding being cut. We've actually been already able to continue being able to screen and already represent some children in both the Dallas and the San Antonio court jurisdiction, which is areas that we see that there are high volumes of children who are no longer represented. I do want to kind of explain that we are a universal representation site. Universal representation is that we accept any type of case that comes in, regardless of the strength of the case, whether it's a very strong, compelling case or it's the likelihood of succeeding is not very high. We take it all because we absolutely believe that no child, regardless, should ever go to court by themselves.
I'm also happy to announce that today we are launching the Families Together Pro Bono and Post-Release Project. The model of this project is based on the work that we've been doing at the Carnes Family Detention Center for the past 4 years with our national pro bono project there. What we are really hoping to do through the Families Together project is with a coalition of like-minded organizations throughout Texas, many of whom are fully in support of this, all of whom are fully in support of this. We are hoping to centralize data management, be able to help organizations manage the parents and the children who have been separated, help locate the parents and the children, which is something we are currently doing on a daily basis in conjunction with other organizations. Referring those parents and children to pro bono counsel back to these specific organizations. We are also really hoping, one thing that we're really cognizant of is the overwhelming interest in volunteering and providing free support of whatever means, regardless of your expertise. So many people are reaching out to us and other organizations. But one thing that a lot of nonprofits don't have a lot of capacity to do is manage volunteers, train, supervise, oversee logistics. And so what we're really hoping to do is work with our partner organizations to help them manage volunteers, volunteer interest, figure out the right place for volunteers to go, help ensure the volunteers are trained, that they have supervisors on site, and help these organizations really use these volunteers and pro bonos and all of you who are interested in coming to Texas as the most effective way possible.
We've also been able to already start recruiting and hiring new staff. A special thank you to Rising Together, who has previously provided funds, and we've actually been able to already recruit, start interviewing, and start hopefully increasing our internal capacities to take on more of these types of issues and cases. So because of the amazing response that we've received from you guys, we're actually able to continue those efforts and hopefully get enough staff to continue this fight.
I think Barbara's now going to talk about when we will get the money.
Sure. So money that is coming to us directly through our Action Network website, we are able to access those funds. We've already begun to strategize around that, the best ways to use that efficiently and effectively, thinking not just about short-term planning, but also the long-term. Facebook has also been very generous in helping us work through the process of receiving all the funds collected through Facebook. And just, we want to acknowledge one more time how overwhelming the response has been. And we continue to see those numbers climb, and it is just really sort of a special moment, I think, not just for the attorneys and the advocates who work so hard day in and day out, going to detention centers, working with detained populations, working to reunite families and make sure that children do not have to go to court unrepresented. This is a big moment, and we're grateful that all of you are sharing that with us, because it's a testament really not just to the importance of the work, but that we know that people who maybe are new to immigration issues are taking note of what's happening right now and the climate that we find ourselves working in. And so as you know, Manoj and Maida have said, as we continue to sort of collect and receive the funds, we will continue to internally strategize and plan. So just bear with us. We ask for your patience, and you've been so great to us. So thank you for that.
I want to talk a little bit about how the money will be spent long term. I think immediately what we see is the desire, as Myra stated, that no child should go without a lawyer. So our goal is to provide free legal representation to every child in Texas. That is the goal of the LEAF project. With, you know, this generosity, we actually think that goal is foreseeable. I think we also equally see a crucial need of legal representation for the parents who are detained as well and receive far fewer services than the children. We absolutely want to ensure that every parent has access to representation and access to legal counsel. We hope to continue advocating against these, you know, barbaric policies and policies that fail to take into account asylum seekers, refugees, victims of trauma, and, you know, continue providing direct representation and support to our partner organizations throughout Texas, throughout the country, so that we can all continue doing this work in every corner of the country. We also intend to set aside a portion of the funds for a bond fund. We have been running a bond fund for 4 years. It grew out of the family detention context. It has been relatively dormant for the past year because of changes in policies towards family detention. It wasn't actually quite as necessary over the past year or two, but you know, the family separation has really re-energized the need for a bond fund, and we are fully cognizant of the need for the bond fund. I think in the past 4 years, we've been able to bond out about 75 to 80 families using donations through our existing bond fund. In the past week, we've been able to bond out 3 separated parents using the contributions that you all have made to the bond fund. And we are strategizing on how best to operate the bond fund using our experience from the past 4 years, having run a bond fund, and ensuring that every dollar is getting exactly where it needs to go.
So one of the other questions that we have received time and time again is how are we feeling right now? And what are we hearing from the families we work with, from our clients? I think it's safe to say that we're feeling, one, overwhelmed by the response, the generosity, the incredible generosity. This is so unlike anything we've experienced before. And again, it's so important for us to acknowledge that and say thank you, because this typically is work that's done. It doesn't happen in the spotlight. It's not terribly glamorous work, and I think also for those that maybe are not super familiar with immigration issues, it's confusing. These are very complex issues. So we very much want to utilize this platform to speak on behalf of and advocate for the families that we serve. I think that for us, what the families are saying, first of all, there's a tremendous amount of uncertainty. Parents separated from their children, children separated from their parents, in many instances, families unable to locate loved ones. And this is not just a significant issue from a legal perspective, but if we think about the trauma that is being inflicted upon these families, especially a tearful child who is left without a mother or a father in a detention center surrounded by strangers. I think that this is something that speaks to every one of us, and it's important to combat that with work and with making sure that as we continue to sort of develop our strategic plans, that primary among that is family reunification.
Family reunification is definitely a priority for us. Also trying to locate the families, where they're at, where are the parents, where are the children. There's been a lot of inquiries of, will this help families outside of Texas as well? We have seen that a lot of these families are in Texas. However, we're starting to see that some of them are being transferred out to other facilities. We are definitely going to try and work with our local coordinator, with any organizations that are willing to work with us and assess the needs as they become available. But it's definitely something that we are taking a segment at a time, but our ultimate goal is family reunification, and we are definitely going to try and make sure that the funds that we do receive reach as many people as possible regardless of their location. But I think first we need to assess the needs of that population.
We've gotten a lot of really great inquiries on how you guys, beyond a financial donation, can help and can get involved. I think on the legal side of things, for those of you that are lawyers or want to do legal work, in our existing pro bono models, we use a lot of non-lawyer support, non-lawyer volunteers who work under the direction of an attorney. We're really familiar with how to plug non-lawyers into these complicated legal situations. I think there's a lot of ways you guys can get involved here in Texas, working directly with detained adults, working with their kids, preparing them for upcoming asylum office interviews, potentially representing them as lawyers, possibly representing them for bond to get them released from custody. I think there's a lot of opportunities for lawyers that can't make it down to Texas. You can represent many of these people over the phone or by video. There's a lot of work needed to put together motions for bond applications, to gather documents from family members, to do translations. There's all sorts of ways to get involved. We would really encourage each and every one of you that's interested to reach out so we can tell you more about those opportunities. I think on the non-legal side of things, I think the key thing is raising awareness within yourself, within your family, within your community on what is going on, how these policies are impacting you, impacting your community. For example, RAICES is producing a series of podcasts featuring an asylum-seeking family and a refugee family. The first episode is already available on Facebook. I would encourage you to, organize a listening and discussion party with your friends, with your community, and listen to the podcast and talk about its impact and how you would respond in that situation if you were faced with those same issues. There's countless documentaries and movies and video content out there on the journey that refugees go through to get from their home country to the United States, on what the asylum process is, on the immigration process. I think immigration court is open to the public. I would encourage you to find your local immigration court, to go in and observe immigration court hearings and see what it looks like when people don't have access to counsel, and do something about it. Write a letter to the editor. Tell your friends about it. Talk to your elected officials about how unfair this system is. I think you could even organize or attend a vigil or a protest in front of an ICE office or a Border Patrol office. There's ICE and Border Patrol offices throughout the country. Let them know that, these policies are unacceptable. You can educate members of your congregation. You can locate organizations like RAICES, legal services organizations, social services organizations in your local community that work with these affected populations, and figure out how you can volunteer locally. There's always a need for translators. There's always a need for pro bono support. There's always a need for community and moral support for these kids and their parents who are going through this complicated and scary legal process. You want to talk about what else folks can do to get involved?
Sure. I want to mention briefly, we are part of a very extensive accompaniment network. This is part of our partnership through like-minded organizations, the faith-based community, and through the accompaniment network, we are able to accompany vulnerable families to ICE check-ins, in some instances even medical check-ins. So anytime that a family feels unsafe, we know that there's safety in numbers, and so we encourage you to reach out to us at volunteer at raicestexas.org, and we would be happy to sign you up for not just information about accompaniment, but if you are active with the faith-based community, with your local church, your congregation, your mosque, and you want to talk about the sanctuary movement and what that would mean for you and your congregation, we are also happy to connect you with trainings and workshops and resources. Anything that you can imagine, we need help and assistance with, not just on the legal side, but in organizing. Outreach is so important to us, being engaged actively with the community, and really responding to community needs. We are happy to field any requests for information about volunteering and sharing resources with you as to how you can best get involved.
We're getting a couple of questions, but probably a lot of questions. So we're going to try to jump through some of these right now.
Sure. So our website, so depending on what you would like to do. So if you want to donate, you can go to the donate section. And then also on our website, there's various ways of, various levels of engagement. You can sign up for an End Family Separation Toolkit, which we are in the process of finalizing. And that is a very useful tool, just as Manoj had been talking about, sort of raising awareness, engaging with the community. Some of the best and most pivotal conversations we can have happen in settings like this, small groups, one-on-one. This issue of family separation is in the headlines right now. People are conscious of it. They want to take action. One of the best ways to do that is through these toolkits that we're developing and engaging with your friends, family, and colleagues. So Action Network is also a way for you to engage with us. If you have not yet signed up for alerts, not just information about what we're doing and where we're going, but anytime there's an opportunity for you locally to get involved, we will make sure that the link to Action Network is up on our Facebook page. And while we're talking about Facebook, that's honestly one of the best ways to sort of stay on top top of what we do. There's a team of us who regularly updates the page, not just with content, but also events that are happening locally. We are a statewide organization for those of you in Texas, and we know many of you who are watching nationally are considering making trips to Texas, and so that is one of the best resources that we have for you to quickly field through information that we've got. And then also our Instagram page is another way to sort of be in contact with us.
And I do want to mention, we're definitely cognizant of the fact that our website has crashed, and it's crashed at the moment. I'm really sorry for that. We're overwhelmed with the amount of traffic that we've been receiving. We're in the process of upgrading to a server that can handle this capacity and this volume. And we hope that it will be up and running again by tonight. But definitely contact us at volunteer@raicestexas.org, through Facebook, through Action Network, through Instagram to reach out to us. I think there's also a lot of really great questions about the children. I think our hope is that once we get our volunteer network trained up and in place and able to get on the ground and get moving to represent these parents, that there will be a place for volunteer lawyers to plug in to represent the children, or things that can be done to help with reunification, sharing of information, helping kids communicate with their families, with their parents. I think there's a lot of really great questions. One question, do you need supplies? I think
we would absolutely welcome supplies. That is no small thing. We have 3 offices in San Antonio alone. So any donations of office supplies, whatever you see fit, we certainly always need copy paper. We always need pens. Anything imaginable like that, file folders. If you are interested in donating office supplies, they would be so very welcome.
Stuff to the kids.
Oh, okay. Is the kids who were detained or released? Okay. I think as Barbara mentioned, we are a nonprofit, right? And there's not a donation or assistance that's too small or too big. We welcome anything. I maybe just reach out to the volunteer at RAICEStexas.org for more information. There's just a lot of requests or questions in regards to donating kids directly to kids who are detained. I think there's some restrictions about that. I really encourage you to, I think right now, children have a little bit more access to certain things, so our concentration should probably be on helping us get legal representation and assistance to them. I think children who are detained, please know that they have to comply with state licensing, and they are given the resources that they need as of right now. But I think the focus right now is to help them with their legal case.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, because the kids are in custody, the parents are in custody, to my knowledge, we unfortunately cannot just walk in with a basket of goods to provide to them. Unfortunately, I think that's something that actually has to go directly through the government, directly through the Office of Refugee Resettlement that runs the children's detention centers, or directly through ICE that runs the adult detention centers.
Someone had asked about the Amazon Wishlist. We absolutely have one. We'll make sure that we post that to Facebook. Again, every little bit helps.
Yeah, and
And actually, something else that as we're sort of talking about supplies, something that we always seem to find ourselves needing, especially because so much of the accompaniment work does involve, of course, working with children, booster seats, car seats. We will make sure that we update our Amazon wish list to include those items as well.
Well, I think we're receiving several questions, and again, we just want to thank you again for all this information, all this assistance. We want to thank you guys in the community, those who are joining in, those who are going to join in later. We just want to thank you. This is an overwhelming response. I know there's a lot of more questions coming in. We are going to try our best to review those and maybe try and address those questions at a later time. But we just wanted to take this short time to thank you guys for all the support. This is something that we never thought would get to this level, and we are very excited because we really do think that now we can provide even more assistance to this very vulnerable population.
And, I just want to reiterate exactly what Myra said. I think we're really honored and humbled to have been entrusted with this incredible outpouring of generosity. I think it really just shows the community's anger towards these barbaric policies. And, we're here in Texas. We've been here for 30 years. We're in it for the long haul. We're here to fight to protect these kids, to protect these parents, to protect our families, our communities. And, we really just want to thank you for supporting us. And, we're not going to let you guys down. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.